How can one be consciously aware of desires being formed in the mind and prevent new desires, either consciously or subconsciously, from being formed? And can desires be destroyed in their seed state?
Yes, this is a very yogic question. It can be done, but before I go into that, let me just say that to notice the formation of desires, the arising of desires, and the subsiding of desires, and the transformation of desires from negative to positive in the mind through meditation requires skill, deep meditation, not easily available. Preliminary to that, and an easier way of that, but not as glamorous as sitting quietly and I'm meditating and transforming myself, but more powerful, is the path of karma yoga. When actually with this body, with this speech, I'm interacting with this world and other people. Instead of trying primarily to fulfill my desires. What are my desires? I want to bring all the wealth and happiness and pleasures of the world for this one body mind. That is selfishness. And even if I do, I'll never be happy. That is selfishness. Rather, let me try to fulfill the needs of others. Let me try to assuage their grief. The golden rule, which is there in every religion, that you treat others as you would have them treat you. That others suffer the way I suffer, others also suffer. The way I am pleased by nice things, others are also pleased. So let me try to remove their sufferings and let me try to give them happiness. That is actually a much more powerful way of controlling one's desires and transforming them. And an easier way. A monk told me, a senior monk once told me when I was a novice, he said, we are ordinary people. There are great spiritual yogis, there are yogis, masters of meditation, who can actually make the transformation at the level of the mind in deep meditation. But that's not so easy for us. For most of us, he said, for most of us, we require external struggle. We need to do something in the world to change ourselves. That's why work is there. That's why, in fact, samsara is there. All the desires which drive us to have get money and success and compete in the world and get relationships and children and all of that samsara, the whole thing, that's also spiritual because it slowly leads to transformation. If you do it consciously, it is called karma yoga. So that monk told me, most of us, we are ordinary people, we need external struggle. We need to wrestle with the world. If you do it unselfishly as service, the transformation of desires is much faster. It's good. Now, but the question was about meditation. Yes, it can be done. It works in this way. In the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is perhaps one of the oldest manual of meditation that we find, in a commentary written on the Yoga Sutras by Vyasa, there is a very beautiful, he quotes a much more ancient text, Vyasa quotes. What he says is this: Evam vritti samskara chakram aharnisham avartamanam. The cycle of vrittis and samskaras rotates, the wheel of vrittis and samskaras rotates day and night. What does it mean? Notice our thoughts. If you notice carefully, if you introspect, you will see we are not really thinking them. They bubble up from inside somewhere. And then we put them into action. Are you with me? You see, if you notice carefully, simple thing like, I will raise my hand. So I raise my hand. So did you not think it? Did you not do it? No. Before I did it, I thought it. But before I thought it, if I look carefully, the decision I will raise or not raise, somehow there is a subtle impulse coming up from unknown depths, like a little bubble coming up from deep inside a lake. When it comes to the surface, it becomes noticeable. It becomes an impulse. Raise your hand. But I did not actually think it. It came and it sort of took possession. You will see that's how it's functioning. It is bubbling up from inside and then it takes possession of us. Then you make it a conscious thought. Then you say something and do something. Mind, speech, action. Kaya mano vakya. Kaya means body, mana means mind, vakya means speech. So before anything, the thought bubbles up, becomes a conscious thought, transformed into speech. I say something, I do something. Now, here is the thing. So what can meditation do? These thoughts which are bubbling up from inside, they are from our tendencies. Where are they? Why do particular thoughts come up, particular desires, or particular patterns of thinking? Maybe some people say, I get very depressed. So patterns of thinking, why? The reason is that we have samskaras, tendencies inherited from our past years and past lives. The conditioning is there, and that comes up. That's what bubbles up. And often it is called forth by external circumstances. Now, as it bubbles up, there is a window of opportunity where the tendency as it comes to the surface, and before it becomes an expressed thought at the surface of the mind, before that, there is a point where you can assent to it, you can say yes, or you can say no. That window is very, very small, and we miss it all the time. We mostly function on default. Whatever is bubbling up from inside, that takes control. Some of us, we try to exercise willpower, but willpower doesn't usually work. Why? You may control it once, next time it's more powerful. Control it once and fail twice. That's mostly the case of willpower with most people. Why does it fail? It fails because already it has become an expressed thought at the level of the mind. Then there's a lot of psychic energy in it. So if you try to stop it and push it back down, it takes a lot of psychic energy, a lot of willpower to do that. And no wonder that we sometimes succeed, sometimes fail. What meditation does is, it makes you aware that before it has become expressed at the surface of the mind, when it bubbles up from the seed from unknown depths, you have a moment, a tiny window of conscious choice. Do I allow this? Is it positive? Is it according to my goals in life? Is it helpful to me? Or is it negative? It's going to take me in a wrong direction. So at that moment, you have a choice. It comes from what is called samskara, inherent tendencies. And when it comes to the surface of the mind, it becomes what is called vritti. Vritti means thought. From samskara to vritti. And then action. I say something, do something. And if you entertain the vritti in the mind, that vritti then subsides, but it doesn't disappear. It goes back and strengthens that samskara. So there is a cycle. Samskara vritti chakra avartamanam, rotating. When? Day and night, throughout conscious life. Even in dream, it rotates. Now, what the meditator does, the Raja Yogi, is as in that conscious, that instant, the window of opportunity, as the vritti is forming, before it is powerful, before you have invested psychic energy in it, the yogi can actually see this and substitute. Instead of giving the default version, substitute. Angry reaction, say an insulting word. No, calm, let it go. Now when it forms, the mind will be a peaceful thought. Let it go. So he has done that at the seed state. Now another thing happens. The same psychology works, that let it go, peaceful reaction to an irritating circumstance comes and makes it a vritti and holds on to that vritti, transforms that into action. That vritti will go down back into the subconscious. And that will become a samskara over time. And that thing rotates. As that rotates, our samskaras also change. What he calls transformation. Our desires, we'll find, after some time the yogi notices the vrittis which are forming, the samskaras which are bubbling up, they're all positive. They're all nice. They're all helpful. They're spiritual. What you think you should do, now you want to do that. The conflict is, I have decided I want to be a yogi, and so I have got certain things I want to do. That these are things which I should do. But the things bubbling up from inside me are contrary. I want to do that, I should do this immediately. This is conflict. That's at the beginning. The yogi transforms this so that what I want, what I should do is also what I want to do. Then the thing becomes easy. Sri Ramakrishna put it in his very simple way. He used to live on the side of the river, so he would see the fishermen or the boatmen would mightily use long oars to push their little boats out to the midstream. When the boat is in the midstream of the river Ganga, in the current, it just flows with the current and the sail is up. The wind is pushing it along. The current is pulling it along. And the same boatman who was sweating and working so hard now sits at the helm, holds the rudder, and he says he enjoys a smoke. He puffs away and holds the rudder of the boat, and the boat just merrily sails along. He says in spiritual life too, there's a time when you must struggle, push hard, push back until the inner conditioning changes. To some extent it becomes helpful. Some have done it, lucky ones, in their past lives. You're lucky to be born with spiritual samskaras. I see this all the time, especially in a specialized community like the monks. The young novices I have seen in the monastery, all have come to be monks. All have come to be trained in spiritual life. So all have good intentions. And yet some struggle and some sail along merrily. Why? All want it. I mean, want it, at least they have decided, this is going to be my life. This is how I should be. But why the struggle then? Because internally, deep inside, conditioning is what pulls some people back. And some other people, they just sail along merrily. They get up even before the rising bell in the monastery sounds at 3:40 a.m. Even before that, they're up. It can be very irritating if your roommate is one of them. When you're trying to grab some sleep in the hot, muggy atmosphere, here is this one who's already taken his bath and chanting Sanskrit verses and getting ready happily for 2 hours of meditation. So, how is that person doing it? Some do it by straining. That's not a good idea. Skill is better. I know one of our brothers, one of the young monks, who tried so hard. You wouldn't believe it. He would go, and you can imagine it's 110 degrees in the shade and 100% humidity. Literally drenched in sweat. And then you have to do hard work like serving 20 people on this side and 20 people on that side in the dining hall. And you have buckets and buckets of rice and curry and stuff like that, and you have to go and serve them. It's really hard work. He does it for one batch of monks. After that is done, the second batch he serves. Third batch, where the people who are serving, they're supposed to eat themselves. He serves the third batch too, does not eat himself. Then he comes back to the place he's staying. You will not, this is an extreme case, and please, nobody should try it. You know what he does? He plucks leaves and grass and cleans it, boils it and eats that. To prevent himself from sleeping too much at night, he had elevated his bed with bricks on one side, so it will be like an incline, so he can't sleep comfortably. One day he slipped up with an almighty thud, crash, which reverberated throughout the building. So anyway, that is training. Luckily, the blessings of God were on him, and he slowly moderated himself, and is a very good monk now. That's training. The opposite is laziness. This is the backsliding, the slacking. So transformation happens this way.